I will set the zeitgeist straight.
The movie has too much of the cast in it.
Man, I'm saddled with Jeff Goldblum, the world's most uncharismatic actor.
But it has no poetry.
That's not what this is about.
The problem was when the hero started facing adversity.
Get off your soapbox, Laura Dern.
I want to square off on this guy at a dinner party.
The music was thick.
So far, you have not dazzled me. I'm just letting you know. I need you to repeat after me. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
that this episode will not just be us quoting the movie back and forth to each other.
I didn't know what I was agreeing to before I started this. I don't know if I can finish that.
Welcome to Off the Mark, good chat on bad takes of great movies. I'm Dave Columbo.
I'm Mick Andrews.
And today, this is a wonderful podcast where we wince through the worst reviews of the best movies ever made. Follow us, won't you? As we jump into the fabulous world, the Coen brothers for the first time on the podcast, and do the Big Lebowski.
Hell yeah!
About time. I think this is going to be the most divisive. I didn't double check, but I think on Rotten Tomatoes, this is at 80%. The people who like the Big Lebowski, it is you can't like the Big Lebowski and have it not be in your top 5. If you like it, It's one of the greatest things ever put on celluloid. If you don't like it, you really don't like it. I asked my wife, I was like, because she's one of those who's just like, I don't fucking get it. And she can't even give me a thorough, I'm like, well, explain it to me. What don't you like about it? She's just like, eh. And I'm like, that is so telling, where it's just, you literally don't understand how it holds together as a movie if you don't like it.
It's such, and it's very, Coen brothers are, I think, I don't know if they're unique, but definitely more than other directors. I think they give that impression. I have the same thing with Burn After Reading. Just there's a group of people who find that movie fascinating and interesting, and other people who are just, it's interesting the words you just said when you were talking about it, and Laura's response is, I don't get it. Not I don't like it. It's why?
Yeah, I don't understand why these scenes were put together and why we're following these characters or why we're doing any of this.
And that's the response I hear from most people. It's either this movie is one of the best things that's ever made, or I don't understand why they made what am I supposed to take away from this?
When you think about the difficulty that it takes to make a movie, all the craft services and the gathering people and the paperwork and the money to tell this story, either you get it or you don't,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up Burn After Reading, because Burn After Reading was one of those where there's a lot of Coen brothers movies. I would put A Serious Man in this camp too, where it's the first time I saw it, I did have this mindset was there's no catharsis. There's no validation. There's no story that was told. There's no arc. It's basically are the Coen brothers literally telling us shit happens? Is that what they're saying? And if so, was that an important thing that I needed to spend 2 hours to find out? And then I would go and watch it again and be like, that is what they're saying, and I loved it. The Coen brothers' ability to tell you, Raising Arizona, I think, is a little bit more romantic, where it's they made it in the end kind of thing. But the
Inside Llewyn Davis, I feel does the same thing.
Oh Brother, where it's kind of you are watching a series of vignettes that you cannot anticipate, you can't plan on it. There's no and then the next scene is going to be this.
Yeah,
we're just in this world. You are like a passenger on this train, and either it makes sense or it doesn't.
Yeah, it's stuff just happens to the character. It's not that the character is forging through this story. It's that the story is passing through the character.
Yeah,
there's a definite feeling of Big Lebowski more than any of the others, but Big Lebowski always gave me the feeling that like the story is still going on at the end of the movie. It's just we are following the dude. And so his part in this whole, he's like a lot of ins and outs in this case, like his part in this entire actually like interesting story with between like Maud and her father and Jackie Treehorn still is trying to get his money from Bunny at the end of the movie. There's no change from the original condition. It just gives you this feeling of like the dude like walked into the room of a group of people fighting and they all kind of look at him like, what the hell are you doing here?
Right.
Then they realize, oh, he's here for no reason whatsoever, and quietly like let him go.
Mhm.
And that's the end of the movie. That's how the movie like works, is just like you followed this one guy who has no real stakes or or impact on the story as an actual kind of movie happens around him.
Because No Country for Old Men, same thing, probably their best film. And it's that same thing where it's like, we are just going to catch up to this one character in this grander experience and follow them until we're not.
Yeah.
Like until we don't, and the camera now goes to this other person. But like I can't think of anybody who does it better, or anybody who even really tries to do that. And when you watch this, when you try to articulate what it is about the Coen brothers and what it is about Big Lebowski that appeals to people, I think you are not going to get that experience. What you just articulated about what it is, what the dude is doing, and where the dude exists in this world, you are not going to get that experience watching a film anywhere else.
Yeah. No, that's the thing, is like if this movie were made by other directors, like, because the Coen brothers aren't interested in like it seems to me, I don't want to speak for them, but it seems to me that their interest isn't in the hook of the story, in the kidnapping and the ransom and all this stuff. Any other director who was trying to tell this story and we're trying to do it by the book, if you reshot this movie, the main character is probably Maud.
Yeah.
Or maybe the Big Lebowski himself. But the Coen brothers aren't interested in that story at all. They're interested.
I just
like the dude in a properly done version of this movie, the dude has maybe 3 lines. And he comes and goes and they go, that was weird anyway.
I just got a chill thinking about a lesser director and writer making the story still about the dude, but like, what does he learn? That sometimes pacifism or being a chill, like stoner hippie isn't going to solve your problems, and you have to better yourself, and you have to make an effort. I was just thinking about like who,
if they tried to impose a lesson on it.
Yeah. What did the dude learn? Oh, and I literally was like, oh, no. It's horrific to think.
No, yeah,
but you're right.
Hard pass.
It's either that's what they would do, or they would go like, well, this is the lead. And literally, you get the feeling that like somebody made The Big Lebowski and the Coen brothers were hanging out on set and watched this walk-on role from this stoner, burnout, and was like, that's the movie. I would much rather just watch.
I want to follow that guy.
I want to see that guy doing Tai Chi on his rug. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
it's great.
I thought the best way for us to limit the amount of purely just quoting the lines back and forth, because it is the most quotable movie of all time. I would probably say even more than Ghostbusters. It is the most quotable movie of all time.
I think about a line from this movie on a weekly basis.
Oh, absolutely.
Something happens in my life where I either outright say something from this movie or think it and go like, no, like, not like, oh, I'm so cool, no one's going to get it, but like, it only applies in my head. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have to walk people through the scene I'm thinking of in order for them to get why I'm saying the line. Anyway.
And it is a little bit more of a nerd cred. If you quote Ghostbusters, great.
Sure.
7 out of the 10 people in the room are going to get it. If you quote Big Lebowski, that's a 4 or 5, and that's like kind of like, all right, So I thought what we would do is we would do a countdown of our top, our favorite 10 Big Lebowski quotes. I'll do my 10, then you can do your 10, then I'll do my 9, then you can do your 9, and we'll count them down to at least get it out there. Like let's just get it out there now. I had a couple that didn't make the cut. Like you said.
Well, why don't you save them just in case we have overlap?
Okay, sure. Great. So my number 10 favorite quote from The Big Lebowski: "Fucking dog has fucking papers." Over the line. He's in the middle of still ranting.
He's still going on, and it's just he just cuts him
and the
off.
Transition into it's a league game, Smoke. Yeah. It's just
actually my number 10 is in that same scene, which is has the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one who gives a shit about the rules?
That's a meme for a reason, where it's like in the context of the movie, he's over the top, but over time, I feel like people are like, no. That is the manifestation of the feeling we all feel, where we're like,
there is this rage, this quiet rage that he gets to voice because he's unhinged.
Not
and the end of that scene, after he's finished ranting, just the shot they have where nobody's saying anything, and he's got his gun out, but he's like leaning over in Smokey's face, and Smokey is leaning back. It's just the perfect framed shot, and Donnie's just kind of it's such a great little picture.
I love also before that, I don't know if one of these is one of your quotes, but like this, there's rule. This is not Nom. There are rules. Am I wrong?
There are rules. Yeah, there are rules. Smokey, this isn't Nom.
That's what I love about Walter, is that he's not just at a 10 all the time. He is a cuddly teddy bear who loses it and goes crazy. I mean, we can talk about it later, but the when the dude at the end during the funeral, the spreading of the ashes, like finally flips out on him, and Walter just goes, "I'm sorry." Like, I'm sorry. It is heartbreaking, and I am 100%.
Gives him like this big bear hug.
And he doesn't justify it. He doesn't yell back. He just goes, "I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry." Like, I'm literally like, I love that about Walter. My number 9 favorite quote: "Well, you guys aren't privy to all the new shit."
That's
being caught up, like trying to on the fly.
Yeah,
like you're trying to figure out
constantly trying to pass himself off as like capable of the situation he's in.
Well,
and another one,
you're not
this isn't on my list, but just the phrase, it's a complicated case, a lot of ins and outs.
Yep.
My number 9 is Jackie Treehorn treats objects like women, man.
That is my number 1. You've hit my number 1.
Is that number 1?
That's my number 1.
Okay.
I say that while cleaning the house, alone in the room, out loud, to nobody. My dog isn't even in the room. And I will just go, Jackie Treehorn treats objects like women, man. My number 8 is, "It is our most modestly priced receptacle."
No.
That is the most Coen Brothers way to say this is a cheap urn.
This is the cheapest shit we've got. Yeah. That's great. I've got he's dude's reading the ransom note, and he goes, "It's a bummer." And the guy goes, "What?" Big Lebowski goes, "What?" And he takes it. "It's a bummer, man. It's a real bummer."
I have one that's close to that, is higher up on my list. That's part of that scene, but that ability for him to because when I first saw the movie, I did not know what that feeling felt like, of like you just smoked and like it's all in you and you can't really react
stuck
properly.
In your head.
I hadn't done that, so I was just kind of like, I do not understand that, but I hope to one day pick up by osmosis what is happening to Jeff Bridges right now. My number 7, "She's not my special lady, she's my fucking lady friend. I'm just helping her conceive."
I'm just helping her conceive. His coolness in that scene is is the whole character rolled into one where he's just kind of like, oh, you want a kid? Like, no, like, how does this, like, what are the implications? Like, he's explaining this to a stranger when he found out about it 5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good.
That's a great one. I've got funky fucking Quintana, man. That creep can roll.
So far, the fact that we haven't had much overlap,
I know. Look at this.
is a testament to how incredible the movie is. A little tease going forward for the reviews. Nobody understands. Every review made a point to say, why waste John Turturro like that? The idea of not understanding why you bring this character in, you could cut those scenes and it doesn't add anything. Yeah.
It's iconic because
it's iconic because it's a character that just comes in. Again,
I could do a top 10 like this of just his lines and it would be everything he says in it. That's how iconic he is.
Liam and me, we gonna fuck you
Liam
up.
that his partner's name is Liam. Oh, it's so funny.
He's holding him back at one point.
Yeah,
he's just barely just what's this day of rest shit. All right,
I heard you rolled your ways into the semis. Dios mío, man.
It didn't make my top 10, but one of those where it's just the dude trying to have a comeback, but it's not his thing. So he's just like, well, that's like your opinion, man.
Your opinion. That's on my list.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, okay, cool.
Here.
My number
that's
6.
Just like your opinion,
your
man.
opinion, man. Number 6. I don't like your jerk off name. I don't like your jerk off face. I don't like your jerk off behavior, and I don't like you.
And I don't like you.
Off.
Yeah.
That
jerk off name.
Throwing the mug at him. I don't know how they did it. Like right up there with like stunts from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't know how, because it looks like he threw a mug right at Jeff Bridges, and the sound, the Foley work of like the bing of it, just like it's exactly what a mug hitting somebody in the face would sound like.
Yeah, I think they recorded somebody taking a mug to the face.
Yeah, someone took a mug to the face.
When Walter finds out they're nihilists, and he goes, nihilists? Fuck me, man. Say what you want about National Socialism. At least it's an ethos.
I too dabbled in nihilism. Not nom, of course.
No.
Oh, pacifism. Yeah.
Pacifism,
I dabbled in pacifism. Not nom, of course.
Not nom, of course.
My number 5, different mothers, huh? So racially, he's pretty cool.
Racially, he's pretty cool. I've got that too. Yeah, number 5 for me. This feels like a cheat. But basically, everything Philip Seymour Hoffman says in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's not the lines. So this is why I'm trying to work around it. It's not the lines. It's his tone. In every line, he nails it. Fucking like, you idiot, where's the money? We've been frantically trying to reach you, dude.
Yep.
They never got the money. This is our concern, dude.
That was one of my backups was, this is our concern, dude.
This is our concern, dude.
Yeah.
That's marvelous. I do that. That's one I do every day.
Yeah.
I think of that or go, that's marvelous.
Nice.
That and when he does the Mr. Lebowski's in seclusion and he does the
just the
oh my God, the officiousness of that character. He's so great.
What's your number 5?
Number 5 is fucking Nazis. And then Donnie goes, they were Nazis, dude? And Walter goes, well, come on, Donnie, they were threatening castration. Are we gonna split hairs here?
God, I am surprised we haven't doubled up nearly as much as I thought, because that was, again, like not even on my top list, but that's a great line.
I love that line.
My number 4 is from the ransom note scene. Ooh, fucking A.
Fucking A.
It's that first, it's just that staring like into camera, just like
he's
ooh, fucking A.
My number 5 is you're not wrong, Walter. You're just an asshole.
Yeah. Oh, is that your number 4? Sorry.
Oh, number 4.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
My
That's
number
so
4.
great.
Yeah. You're not wrong, Walter. You're just an asshole. That one I truly do think all the time.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, like I definitely got that wrong, but like, be nice to me.
Number 3 is probably the most famous. Hell, I can get you a toe by 3:00 this afternoon.
You want
with
a
nail
toe?
polish.
I can get you a toe. That's on my.
You want a toe? I can get you a toe.
That I bumped actually in order to make room for some others. This one is, I don't know if this is as highly ranked as it needs to be. Like this probably should have been said lower, but Mina Despacha said there's something wrong with Dinah Cobble.
Great. That's great.
I don't know why, but I love that line so much.
So my number, I'll switch my number 1 and my number 2 just to make my number 2 surprising. But my number 1 was Mr. Treehorn treats objects like women. So I'll put that as my number 2.
Okay, so that makes I'm at number 2.
Yeah.
I'm at number 2 now, right? He's got emotional problems, man. You mean besides pacifism?
It's great. My number 1, it was my number 2, but Treehorn treats objects like women is great. But the other one, it's all in the delivery. He thinks the carpet pissers did this when he's talking to Brent. And he's just thinks the carpet pissers did this. That's my number 1.
The same thing. Same thing. It's tone, it's delivery above everything else. Bit of an act out on this one. Sorry for the people who are audio only, but the line where he's going, Walter is saying, "You are owed something from the Big Lebowski for those guys pissing on your rug," and he goes, well, "That's interesting, man." That's fucking interesting.
He just makes a choice to just take in the world, for a minute, and stretch. Yeah.
That's fucking interesting, man. That's fucking interesting.
That tells you what the movie is. Don't anticipate how anybody's going to react at any given time for anything, and you're going to have a fun time with this movie.
Yeah.
If you accept someone immediately looking away, the lead of the movie to look away from camera and stretch in the middle of speaking their line, you're gonna have fun. Like you're gonna enjoy this. I'll just rattle off a couple of my ones that didn't make it. Maud watching the porn. The story is ludicrous.
The story is ludicrous. And then she goes, "You can see where it goes from here." He goes, he fixes her cable.
That was another one. Yeah. Walter, I'm finishing my coffee. And then just because we're bereaved doesn't make us saps. Calmer than you are.
Calmer than you are is another one I do every day.
And then here's the question: what is your favorite "Shut the fuck up, Donnie"? Because there's so many different moods to the "Shut the fuck up, Donnie."
Yeah, that I was gonna note that we never mentioned it once in this entire list, and I think for me it was strategic. I assumed it would get called here, or we'd discuss it in the course of the podcast anyway. So. I do love the "shut the fuck." When do we play?
Yeah. Yep. There's that one, but there's also, it's a little subtle, and it's not one that a lot of people catch, but when they're watching his landlord cycle play and he said a couple "shut the fuck Donnies" already, and he gets really angry, but he stops himself because he doesn't want to be too loud and ruin the play. So there's this moment where Walter just goes like, "Shut the fuck up," like he kind of
he has to
kind of stop himself, but he wants to shout. That's my favorite one.
That's a good one. That's great.
Oh my God. I mean, so yeah, let's briefly talk about. I was curious before we jump in. I was curious what it is about this movie, and I tried to watch it with a critical eye. Look, I want to be delicate here. Like I don't think it's a man thing, but there is something beautiful about what this movie seems to represent and seems to say in terms of like male bonding, friendships. It is almost like, I don't know how to word it. It is the kind version of like bro culture to me. It's three guys. Yeah, one of them is pulling a gun on people in a bowling alley, but it's three guys who are just living their lives together. Three middle-aged men figuring it out, and there's something beautiful about that. And I want to figure out how to articulate what that is, because I think that's what people like when they like this movie, and why they want to quote it all the time is because they want to be put in that energy where it's just you and your friends hanging out at a bowling alley, talking about situations, and being, even though you're in a crazy situation and the stakes are high, there's something that this movie is telling you about the culture of a positive way that men can bond with men.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
I
does that
think a
make
big
sense?
part, it does. One place I see it more than anything is Walter, as someone who really does kind of exhibit some of the like some incredibly toxic elements of masculinity. It's never directed at the people he cares about.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he kind of is rough with Donnie, but at the end he's, you see his love for him, and you see his kindness towards the dude throughout. The example I wanted to point out is it's established throughout the movie that the one thing these guys care about above all else is bowling.
Mhm.
At the end of the movie, the dude calls Walter on Shabbos after it's already been like patiently explained to him and the audience, like he does nothing. He doesn't pick up the phone. He doesn't get in the car. He doesn't ride in the car, and he sure as shit doesn't fucking roll. Walter picks up the phone immediately because he says, I'm not even supposed to be on the phone unless it's an emergency, and the dude says it is an emergency, and he goes, I know, that's why I picked up.
Mhm.
And he gets in the car and he picks up the dude. It's established in the movie that Walter's priorities are basically bowling, but superseding that is Shabbos, but he breaks that in order to help the dude. And I think that says a lot about like their bond.
Like, when you like mention how much they love bowling, like when he says like "fuck you, Walter," and "fuck the game," or fuck the league," and he goes like, "fuck the league," you think that he's
All
going to
right,
react
dude,
to.
I can tell you don't want to be cheered up.
Yeah, like that's a perfect example of like, yeah, he does have these toxic traits, but Walter doesn't have the narcissism or the sensitivity to negatively react to someone saying "fuck you" the way that like toxic masculinity would suggest, that like that's the peak, is saying "fuck you." Well, no,
Yeah.
fuck you, but like no, it's like "fuck the league."
But the league is the thing he
You know,
takes issue with. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's hard to identify, but there's something about it where it's like it is like a broy culture. It is an attitude and a philosophy that is appealing. When Avatar came out, and there was that whole there were articles about like people were so obsessed with Pandora that there was like a what's the phrase? There was like a withdrawal from after they saw
Oh, that
Avatar.
they struggled to deal with reality, kind of
Right,
thing.
because they wanted to
Yeah.
get back to Pandora. That's kind of how I feel about Big Lebowski. The idea of walking into a room with the dude and immediately making your way to the bar and making it White Russian and just
Yeah.
following him and following what he's doing. There's something tangible there that I don't think people articulate very much. So let's jump in here. We've now talked for 40 minutes.
And I think most of what I've said so far has been quotes or
Yeah,
references.
so let's
let's
hop
actually
in
react
here
to a
on
thing.
it was 1998 on a budget of $15 million. It made 47 million worldwide, mostly international. I thought that was very interesting that like, I bet an international audience was like, I guess this is America. Like, I guess this is what's going on. But it's here was what it opened at number 6 on the box office. Number 1 was this, I don't know if I've ever seen this, Titanic.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah. Number 2 was U.S. Marshals. Also The Wedding Singer.
You remember when comedy movies were in like the top 5 highest grossing movies at the time? Like,
and do you remember
what happened to that?
when there was different kinds of comedy movies? The Coen Brothers comedy is completely different from like an Apatow
Wedding Singer
or Wedding Singer, absolutely. Not what you get anymore. But yeah, let's jump in here. This was the big one. I wanted to read this one first.
Oh boy.
The Big Lebowski is fun, but won't bowl you over. CNN, March 5th, 1998. There's a couple of I'm cutting a lot out of here because there's so much just fluff here. So if it sounds a little disjointed, it's just because I couldn't be bothered. For some reason, rampant, unamusing profanities have taken precedence over their usual warped wordplay. To say that The Big Lebowski lacks focus is an understatement, and I don't want to hear that old war horse about it just being entertainment, so you shouldn't expect anything else.
Wow.
Is that an old war horse?
The argument there, Chief.
Is that actually something that you're hearing? I don't think you're hanging out with the right people if at dinner parties people are going, well, it's just entertainment, so you shouldn't expect anything from it. Who are you hanging out with?
Who are you talking to?
They're more and more taking the lazy-ass David Lynch route by simply throwing weirdness at the screen.
Whoa, what?
One of the oldest and least difficult tricks in the book is a real shame.
To be weird is an old and not difficult trick.
What they're doing what the Big Lebowski is doing is lazy-ass David Lynch, which is one of the oldest and least difficult tricks in the book.
I hate this so much. When you told me we were going to do this movie, I knew that this was going to happen, where I was going to like not want to do the podcast anymore. We're 2 sentences into this, and I'm like, that's so.
I mean, also a dig at David Lynch saying that what he's doing is easy.
Why would you? He's not part of this. Leave him out of this, please.
One of the oldest and least difficult tricks in the book, because we all remember in the early days of cinema, the 20s and 30s, how all of those movies that were comedies like The Big Lebowski that were just weird.
Yeah, and how easy it was to just go for weird.
One of Hollywood's oldest tricks.
That's an old hat.
That's an old war horse right up there with don't
you tell me it's weird because it for weirdness sake.
I laughed out loud a few times during The Big Lebowski, and Jeff Bridges, as always, is very good. But after I write this review, I'll probably never think about the movie again. And I spend way too much time thinking about movies.
Cool. Good for you, buddy. Wow. I spend so much time thinking about movies. I'll never think about this one again.
I will never.
And that's saying something.
Yeah.
Because, I like to think about movies. Sorry. I knew this was going to bring this out of me. I think, and this is going to be my kind of my thesis approach to any reviews we talk about here. I think there are 2 acceptable answers to The Big Lebowski, which is I love it or I like it. And I don't understand it. Not for me. I don't know. This is a frustrating one.
Let me save you some time. Every single one of these reviews does not get it. Does not understand what's happening on screen. Does not understand why these scenes are put side by side. They are all befuddled at the choice to tell this story.
Yeah, I think that's my issue, is that there's there's an acceptable way to not like this movie, which acceptable way. I think I'm going to upset some people here, but I think that in my book, it's okay if you don't like the movie, of course. But you don't say because I don't understand it, it's bad. I think that this movie requires a little humility of people to be like, they're definitely swinging for something and they didn't hit it with me. But that doesn't mean that they didn't do what they meant to do, or that they didn't do what they were going for well.
Yeah, I do think that you nailed it there, because I'm trying to think of a movie like Laura and I went to see The Lighthouse. Did you see that?
Yeah, the Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
Yeah. And we I had heard amazing things about it, and Laura and I both went, and we were like, what? This is the stupidest, most boring, insane.
Oh, really? Oh, I like that movie.
Oh, but everybody who I talked to, like Laura in the middle of the movie was like, somebody throw a pie, like do something for the love of God. But everybody who I talked to had a different experience. So I know that I can't write a review going like, nothing happened, it was stupid, it was dumb. I know that there is an experience that I missed that I would love to read up on, I would love to find out more about. And if I were to write a review, I would find a way to include that in my communication about this was my experience. But I'm trying to think like movies like that where it's like everybody else felt a certain way, or there was a typhoon of an emotion connected to it that just for whatever reason didn't resonate with you. You don't go, that typhoon doesn't exist, or all of them are wrong for having that experience.
Well, I think that's an interesting point for this movie in particular, because it wasn't a bowled over, as far as I understand, and the box office you mentioned kind of confirms it.
Yeah.
This wasn't a smash hit. This was a cult classic that had a slow burn over time that eventually built up a following, like a very devoted following of people, very like a la Rocky Horror, like didn't come into sensational reviews and stuff. This guy isn't being contrarian in writing this, or woman. I'm sorry, I don't mean to assume. This person isn't being contrarian in writing this, I think. And that's why I'm a little more upset, is I feel like they didn't think they had to think critically about the movie because they knew this wasn't a hit. They didn't have to like justify shitting all over this movie, and that they'd be able to kind of like get away with it.
Another aspect to that is most of these reviews talk about the fact that this is the follow-up to Fargo, which they all adore, and like, oh, the Coen brothers have grown up and they're giving us a serious, oh, they're taking it seriously. And just the fact that this movie is kind of not like fart jokey, but like it's the equivalent of a bunch of people just having fun. Like you could tell they just had a blast making this, and this was a reaction. This was them actively saying, I'm not making another Fargo right now. We're gonna do something else.
Well, it's a truly like, it's a classic farce. It's a classic, like the characters don't have enough information, and so they make silly choices as a result of like like a lack of access to information that you, the viewer, slowly receive over time. You learn before they do that Bunny still has all her toes. You see whose toe they found later on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, it's a classic farce, and it's the opposite of Fargo. So in that sense, which is, this kind of dark comedy. I just think that there's a lack of humility that I'm gonna see in these reviews. That's like just acknowledge that simply because you didn't see what people see in this movie doesn't mean there's nothing to be seen. Anyway, sorry.
You're about to hear that right now. He explains the whole summary, and then he goes, I really don't know what to say about all of this. The Coens are not looking to tell a story, and they even insert completely extraneous dream sequences at inopportune moments, almost as if they're trying to goad you into throwing your hands up in despair.
Inopportune moments?
Guy gets hit in the head. He's drugged.
Yeah.
I mean, in that dream sequence we didn't talk about, blew my mind as a child.
It's the best. It's the best.
For when I was a kid, that was Saddam Hussein. I'm sorry. When I saw like real photos of him, I'm like, that's not.
He works in a bowling alley.
Yeah. Oh, that guy who works in the bowling alley. Why is everybody so upset at him?
Yeah, those dream sequences are amazing. They're so much fun. The silliness of that what condition my condition was in, that one dream sequence in particular, with the Valkyrie outfit, and like all the showgirls with the bowling pin hats and stuff. Oh, it's hilarious.
Beautiful.
It's such a great sequence in the middle of a movie that like he says has none of that and has no need for it, and like that's cool, like that's okay, right. Like that's fine. Because it's illustrative.
Brief cul-de-sac here. The music in this movie, I can't think. I would probably say even more than John Williams. That song that starts the Bob Dylan song that
Yeah,
starts the
the
movie.
man in me. Yeah.
That first chord with the
Yeah.
with them going woo,
Yeah. La 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 la.
puts
Yeah.
me in such a good headspace
Mm-hmm.
more than any John Williams. Like within a second, I am immediately smiling.
Yeah.
The soundtrack of this movie is completely flawless. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's yeah. I wrote down that we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's the best. Every song is there for like is serves its fits in perfectly. It's so great. Um the other one that I always think of, and I can't to this day I don't listen to without wanting to uh uh just reenact the scene is Looking Out My Back Door by Creedence. Makes me want to
It's
slap the roof of a car every time I hear it.
every time. Yeah.
Looking out. Yeah.
All right. As uniquely talented as they are, they really don't seem capable of learning a damn thing from their previous misfires. Because that's what it's all about. You got to learn. You got to. This movie didn't do well at the box office. Ergo,
Yeah,
you can't
jeez.
do that again. If you can't tell from the finished product or the miserable box office that the Hudsucker Proxy wanders around like it's got sand in its eyes and eventually drives its audience nuts, then you end up doing the same thing with the Big Lebowski. Yes, it's different. Yes, it's odd. Yes, it's got some laughs. For all those yeses, though, it eventually adds up to an overly busy no.
Fuck off.
They're a writer. They're
That was
definitely a writer.
That was so Bill Maher.
That's going to be a
That was-
no for me,
That's a
dog.
no for me, people.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, critics in the 90s and 80s, less is more. Especially if in your review you're talking about like a movie failed because of writing choices. Don't swing for the fence with I'm gonna read you a title of a review later that is gonna make you. I can't wait to see what face you make when you see it. It's so
boy.
bad, and it's like it would be one thing if what your job was had nothing to do with writing and had nothing to do with that world, but the fact that like you're criticizing writing while. Yes, it's different. Yes, it's odd. Yes, it's got some laughs. For all those yeses, though, it eventually adds up to an overly busy no. That's really weak. That is not impressive writing. If a movie had that in it, you would give it a negative review.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like,
you got to at least do better than the movie you're accusing of being bad.
Fargo suggested that the Coens might be growing up a little, but now they've managed to drop back down the evolutionary ladder. Who knows which pair of brothers will show up for their next movie? I'll be waiting, but this might be the last time. Yes, count the Coen brothers out in 1998. That'll hold you in good stead.
What was their next movie immediately after this? I wonder if this guy tapped out and he missed.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was their next movie.
Oh boy. This guy was like, I don't understand. Why are we watching these people? What's with the baptisms? What's going on?
Or he gave up.
They always seem to be in a tight spot, but nobody does anything about it.
Or they didn't watch it and everyone's like, you gotta see Oh Brother. And they're like, why bother? The Big Lebowski. Again, Oh Brother is another one where I feel like it's this idea of masculinity that male friendship that is completely absent in other movies. This idea of the three of them together and it's a very wonderful energy that these characters have. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And they start out literally bound by each other.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to get too flowery about it, but yeah, there is there's that same kind of bond, and there's even a similar dynamic. Like, there's the one guy who kind of gets talked over the whole time. There's John Turturro's a bit more headstrong and set in his ways and stuff. Like it's just an interesting kind of way that they portray. It's a great way that they portray, male friendship. But boy howdy, I feel bad for this guy for missing or woman for missing out on some bangers.
Yeah.
But that's what you get when you don't get it.
Here's the end of this review. The Big Lebowski, I love this so much. The Big Lebowski is way, way out there. There's a great deal of profanity and overt drug use. At one point, Moore dons a Viking outfit that sports a bowling ball brassiere. It just didn't seem right not to mention it. Rated R, 117 minutes.
But, well, here's the thing. I completely agree with that last sentence, but for none of the reasons that he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what an amazing scene. And it should be noted that scene happens. For me, that's a draw. Like, what is this movie that they have that? I got to figure this out.
But it also seems kind of disingenuous because at the beginning, they're like, they're inappropriate dream sequences. And then later on goes, oh, yeah. And at one point, Julianne Moore dons a Viking outfit and doesn't say that it's in the dream sequence.
Doesn't connect it that it's a dream sequence. That's an interesting point. There's he's laundering his critiques a little.
Out of context, that you're turning people off for the wrong reasons. Like at least show up for this review.
You're cheating a little bit there. I guess it's the 90s, man. But I just wonder, like, have movies taken a turn for a lot more of the gritty realism? Because the drugs and the profanity in this movie do not strike me as like overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you see that kind of thing in, let's say any Guy Ritchie movie, any Quentin Tarantino movie, any movie with like where they're going for realism, which I think it also speaks to the fact that like the writing is realistic. That's how people talk. So
we'll do one more review, but I wanted to read this to you because the review is boring, but this was the title of one of the reviews. Coen Brothers' latest is a big letdown ski.
Fuck you. I hate you. I hate you for making me hear that.
And then the subheadline, comedy about druggy bowler strikes out and its tired film noir plot is a turkey.
Is a turkey.
Because of bowling.
Yeah, I got it. I I definitely understood.
That's hilarious that I was like, oh, he just must not get the bowling reference. And you were like, no, I've moved on. No. It's just that bad.
I've processed that already. I've decided I hate it.
Oh, the big letdown ski.
The big letdown
Again, you don't get to mention in your review about weak writing if that's what you're throwing out there. All right, so here is one more quick little review. Strikes and gutters. The Big Lebowski. The Big Lebowski is loony, entertaining nonsense. From the Santa Cruz Sentinel, March 1998. It seems every other page of dialogue in The Big Lebowski calls for someone to say to someone else, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Any script that uses this line more than twice is in trouble of collapsing into rage-induced incoherence, and indeed, with this out-of-control, self-consciously perverse new epic from Joel and Ethan Coen, that belligerent catch-call phrase serves as an appropriate critical reaction. Right?
No.
Well, they make a good point. You can't repeat a line of dialogue more than once.
It also is kind of the point of the movie, not for nothing, is that nobody has the information.
This reminds me so much of when we did Jurassic Park, and you could see the gears turning on the reviewer going like, oh, I'm going to say that this movie is extinct. Like, dinosaurs. Like dinosaurs are extinct. And I'm going to say that like old Hollywood goes extinct because this movie should be extinct. And much like it, you could see this reviewer going like, someone said, what the fuck are you talking about? Wait a minute. What if that's
I don't know what they're talking
we're saying to the movie?
This is why they paid me the big bucks. Zing.
Strikes and gutters, the Big Lebowski. Oh my God. The burden of being Hollywood's hippest filmmakers looks to be weighing heavily on the Coen brothers. After Fargo, the most sublime articulation of the Coens' mock ironic style, Lebowski is a return to the overly mannered film nerd humor of the Hudsucker Proxy.
Okay. I'm kind of
Film nerds rejoice.
Oh yeah.
Again, are you getting flashbacks from The Matrix?
Yeah, of like this, I'm sure there's going to be a nerdy contingent of people who get it or like enjoy this, but that doesn't mean it's good. It's like,
and then here's the last line. Not surprisingly, given the Coens' inclination to celebrate style over substance, this movie's a mess, albeit a highly watchable one. Okay, so is it
good?
So is it good or is it bad? Because
is it worth watching? Highly watchable.
Okay.
Where do we come down?
That doesn't work. You can't destroy a movie for the entire review and then being like, I guess it's high. Like that is an extreme version of like it'll make money that we've covered so often on this podcast. Like calling a bad movie highly watchable.
Yeah. Yeah, this reminds me of like those reviews you see on like Amazon or anywhere, I guess in critics reviews as well now, but where you go like, this movie is a complete mess. I don't understand anything that's going on. None of the characters seem to be talking to each other, more past each other. 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
yep.
Wait.
Yep. There's tons more reviews, but they really are like they're not interesting. Every other review really kind of just boils down to what a waste of this cast, what a waste of these scenes that don't really go anywhere. Here's one, a quick little line here that I thought was interesting. You looking back less kindly. I think this was at the time, but I'm not sure. Usually when a top director makes a dud film, commentators kindly bracket it off as a stylistic miscalculation or poor choice of material in that person's career, which, for instance, is the likely case with Clint Eastwood's Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Sometimes, however, a crashingly bad movie prompts even the firmest fans of a filmmaker to look back less kindly on his or her past work, to finally acknowledge the limitations and problems that have always lurked there, just waiting to run rife. The Big Lebowski offers this type of disenchantment. The latest gruesome effort from Joel and Ethan Coen, Miller's Crossing, Fargo, is surely one of the least bearable films of 1998. Suddenly, the dubious facets that were kept under control in their previous films, the relentless smarty pants humor, the show-off technique, march to the foreground and obliterate all else. Like that,
I believe the exact opposite of that review.
Right. There's something about like that's an extra level of when we talk about reviews that seem to get personal.
Yeah.
It's an extra level that goes like, this movie is so bad, it makes the previous work that they did seem like an accident.
Yeah. Yeah. This is you're watching their legacy tarnish in real time.
This
and it's
is
like
the filmmaking equivalent of aliens built the pyramids. We can't even acknowledge the work that went into the previous things that were created. It had to have been a freak accident.
It's also just demonstrably not true.
No.
This was my first Coen Brothers movie that I ever saw, and it made me obsessed with seeing as much of what they had as possible in order to see the things I loved in this movie crop up here and there. The notes, you can see the Coen Brothers shine through in other parts of in other movies. It's just so wrong about how this is going to affect their legacy. I don't think that there's anyone who has watched, even a handful of Coen Brothers movies who doesn't think, first off, that it fits perfectly in their catalog, and secondly, that it's not, a shining star. I don't know very many people who are, Coen Brothers fans who go, I love everything they do, but the Big Lebowski is a waste of time. Like,
Doesn't happen.
if you like the Coen Brothers, this is a movie for you. This is 100% a movie for you.
Ready for this? Same review. The Coens' line in comedy increasingly resembles a very forced, substandard live-action episode of The Simpsons.
What?
Every actor mugs furiously. All characters, major and minor, function as quotations from classic pop text, such as the painter dominatrix, Julianne Moore, who would be right at home in Scorsese's After Hours. She's not a dominatrix. Are you talking about the harness she's wearing?
Because she wears a harness at one point. That's what that is. Oh my God. Because she wears a harness once.
No accountability. I'm going to write that, get paid to write that. And the only acknowledgement that was wrong is going to be on a podcast decades later.
Decades later.
Nobody else is going to catch.
A couple of nerds who read it and went, what? I'll throw this bone. There are absolutely just straight up characters in these movies, in all Coen Brothers movies. I think the Coen Brothers are some of the best directors at elevating the character actor, at making the bit part fascinating. Like the teller in No Country for Old Men, like, that scene, like, that guy's got, 5-10 lines in the whole movie, but it's gripping. Someone like what's his name? David Thewlis is in this movie for 2 minutes.
How did we not?
And I think about it all the time. That's Knox Harrington, the video artist. Who the fuck is this guy?
I love how we're at the end of the podcast and I'm like, oh yeah, that scene.
That scene is great. And that's where characters work in these movies so well. Like another one, the cops, when he's reporting the car gets stolen, and the guy's writing a report, and the dude just first off, another great line that I didn't make my list but should have, where he goes, what was in the briefcase? And he goes, papers, just my papers, various business papers. He can't come up with literally another word other than papers.
And he's like, and what do you do?
And what do you do? I'm unemployed.
I wouldn't hold out for the credence though.
But the way the guy, so then the dude says, my rug was stolen. He goes, was it in the car? He goes, no, it was just stolen. And the way that the cop goes, separate incidents.
Yeah. It's the Coen brothers were like, we want to do good cop, bad cop, but instead it's going to be disinterested cop and overly kind cop.
Yeah.
Because then the call comes on with Maude and he's just like, wow, I guess we can close the paperwork on that one. He's so happy.
The look on the other cop's face as he's taking in the room, just this like just this mug.
There's something that I wanted to mention as well, which the vibe that you get from all of these reviews is that they didn't understand it. They didn't get it. Why are we here? Why are we following this? And I think the perfect example of like whether you're in or out is the first time he meets Maude, when the scene, and Coen brothers do this all the time, where it's like, we are not holding your hand here. He's in a hallway. He sees paint on the ground. He hears chanting. He sees something in front of him. And then Maude comes over him in a harness, throwing paint down. And it's like, and then slowly you'll get an explanation as to what all of this was that you just saw. And that's something that the Coen brothers do all the time, which is we're not gonna start the scene simplistically and then develop complexity as we go. We're gonna start with complexity, and then you'll get as much information as you need as the scene progresses. And part of the scene is like, oh, okay, that's what this is. Okay, that's what this is. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah. The beginning of Jackie Treehorn, where it's just a naked woman on a trampoline.
Yeah.
Why? We'll get there. Don't worry about it.
It trusts you that you're intrigued enough by the start of it to want to piece it together yourself.
And it seems so obvious that it's blowing me away that these reviewers are like, well, that didn't make sense. Like, no, it's the energy of the story.
Mhm.
It's a choice that things are being told that way.
It also is, because it is, in a sense, like, at least in the dude's head, it's like a mystery story, right? Like, it's this kind of private eye kind of story, only made completely farcical. But it's organic in that sense of, like, things are going on out, like, beyond the dude. Like, this is a world that he has, like, found himself thrown into. And so it's not like he walks into a room and someone is standing there waiting to give. It's not they're not like NPCs in a video game
Yeah.
waiting to exposition dump at you. Jackie Treehorn was at a party when you came over.
Mhm.
And so that's what's going on right
Jackie
now.
Treehorn also takes a call and just draws
Yeah,
a naked
because
man.
of course he does.
And the
The-
dude
The
does
way the
not.
dude hesitates halfway through, where he just
It is the best editing I've ever seen, because me as a viewer, and I'm getting what he's drawing,
Yep.
and at the exact moment that I have questions, it cuts to the dude going.
then he slowly keeps it's so funny.
And the dude never gets clarification on that. In fact,
Yeah, that is
the
never
police
resolved.
chief of Malibu just sees that he's got that.
Yeah.
Like, I
Oh,
mean,
it's so
but
funny.
again, because all of these things are happening, and either that's okay with you, or you're one of these reviewers who was like, all of these missed plot points.
Yeah.
Boy, they
Yeah.
really dropped the ball.
My point was just, they're also, those characters aren't like Simpsons-esque. They're not cartoonish.
No.
They are gripping, and I'm fascinated by them all the time. I think about those characters all the time, but I don't think they're unrealistic,
Not
like,
at
I
all.
don't think that they're cartoony.
I think about The Clerk and No Country for Old Men, the coin scene.
Yeah.
I think in what, 2 pages of dialogue, I know his entire life.
It's great.
I know I know what his house looks like. I know what his wife looks like. I know the life he's lived, because it's written so well, and they cast the perfect person who was living their life until Shigerin comes in that moment.
Yeah.
We have to do No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, 100%.
I cannot wait. Are we ready for 2 reviews and a lie? 3 1-star reviews, user reviews for The Big Lebowski. 2 of them are real. 1 of them I wrote. I picked these because all 3 of these sound like something that I would write. I'm very excited.
This is gonna be tough. Okay.
So currently you have 2 points, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And I have 0. So here we go. 2 reviews and a lie. Review number 1.
Mhm.
I don't find which one of these did I write. I don't find a guy walking around with a mixed drink all the time funny. I don't find Dan Connor overreaching as a guy who was a Vietnam vet freaking out about anything funny, particularly because that's all been done before. I don't find referencing a guy as the dude with the article obligatory to be funny. And on and on. What's funny? Dennis Miller. He's funny. George Carlin. He's funny. Big Lebowski. Not funny. It's review number 1.
Oh my God.
Dennis Miller is very funny.
Ha cha cha.
Couldn't be more
All right.
90s. Review number 2. Not good, not good, not good, not good. I'm repeating myself for everyone who told me to watch this movie. I went in expecting gold. 20 minutes in, I was bored to death, but kept expecting it to make sense due to its rating. They use the F word constantly, and there's no proper ending. There is no inspiration or knowledge in this flat drink of a movie. I think there's something wrong with my friends.
That's fun. Oh, that's phenomenal.
That's review number 2. Review number 3. This is just a long and boring crime movie with no mystery and fewer jokes. This movie has no comical moments than any other action movie. Jeff Bridges is not a comedian nor funny and is insolent in his satire. He is just another terrible actor riding his parents' coattails. The Coen brothers are also not comic writers, frankly. They are the definition of overrated. This film fails to entertain unless you are some uptight or overprivileged classist who has never met real people and enjoy the mockery of the lower class.
Okay.
Jeff Bridges is not a comedian, nor is he funny, and he's riding his father's coattails.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, bravo. Hats off. Whatever
you're
you
up
did
by 2
on this
points, so
one,
I had to pull it out.
you really brought it this time. I honestly cannot pick. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with number 3 because I don't want to live in a world where someone thinks that.
I wrote number 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh,
somebody.
Number 2 is good. You threw in that Dennis Miller shit. That's
yeah.
That was well done, man.
Now I want to go through the third one very, very briefly. This is just amazing. This is just a long, boring crime movie with no mystery and fewer jokes, fewer than none.
The
movie has no more comical moments than any other action movie. It's not an action movie. Jeff Bridges is not a comedian nor funny and is insolent in his satire. He's insolent in his satire.
Yeah.
He's another terrible actor riding his parents' coattails. The Coen brother are also not comic writers. I wanted to throw that in because I thought that's such a bad typo that there's no way. Like, that sounds like something I would write.
It did sell me on that. Yeah, no question. I thought, oh, he's evolved. He's
and apparently we're uptight, overprivileged classists who've never met real people.
Right, sure. I don't think we mentioned this. The start of the movie specifically tells you what to expect.
Good point.
Like, Sam Elliott in voiceover explicitly tells you, of all the stories I've heard, I've never heard of anything nearly as stupefying as this.
Mm-hmm.
And like, expectations should be there because that's where the movie has set its own stakes and been like, this is what you're going to get. Yeah. This movie's going to be completely off the wall. And you know, this basically, like, you know, angelic proxy character who is apparently omniscient, is gonna tell you this is about as bizarre as it gets. So I think in that regard, even a negative review is like expectations met. This movie has done what it was seeking to do.
Especially if you've seen other Coen Brothers movies, like, they're all so different and so, like, some are in a fantasy world, some are in the real world, some, I know by now, especially Coen Brothers more than any other type of like any other filmmakers. I'm like hard reset every single time I watch one of their
movies.
In
cold and just be along for the ride. Like, they're gonna do something that they have that, you know, you haven't seen before, and you know, just be there for the moment and don't go like, well, what was the point of this? It's just could there be anything worse than trying to like distill this into a lesson at the end of the movie? Like,
I think the reason why I'm so frustrated and this angers me so much is that, like we said at the beginning, anybody who doesn't get this movie in our lives just shrugs. They don't try to articulate that it's not that it doesn't flow, that it doesn't hold together, that it's not a movie. Like they don't go that far. They just go like, I get it. You know, like it's not for me. It just doesn't appeal to me. Yeah. But this is like to sit down and like have to listen to people go like, no, it doesn't hold together. These actors are wasted.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Well, that is the Big Lebowski.
Big Lebowski.
Do you still like the movie?
I do.
Okay. All right. Wow. Okay.
Do.
Bold.
Yeah, I know. Despite what everybody said today, this movie is...
It's just the live action Simpsons, though.
Yeah, he says that like it's a bad thing, by the way.
Right. If it was, that's great. You know, yeah.
But it's not. But if it were, cool. Like,
right.
Yeah, no, I love this movie and I always will. And every time I put it on, I feel it's like it's just the ultimate comfort movie for me. This
Mhm.
is a warm cup of tea um in movie form. And yeah, like I could have written that top 10 list of my favorite lines without having watched the movie recently.
Yep.
Like that's how well they stick in my head. Um but and it never gets old. It's one of those like there are great movies, phenomenal movies that I recognize as like that's as good as cinema can get, but I've seen and I don't, I got it. Like I have taken that in. This will never feel old for me. It never feels stale. It's evergreen. Um and there's something else to be said for that. So, yeah, I think this movie is phenomenal.
Tell us what you thought. Send us your 1-star reviews for the Big Lebowski. Like,
And
share,
favorite
subscribe,
quotes. Let's
and
get some
favorite
more quotes going.
Yeah. Please, share. Like, just tell somebody about the podcast. Anybody who you think might like it. We'd love to get some more viewers and more listeners. Like, share, subscribe. You can find me on davecolumbo.com, Dave Columbo on TikTok, and DVD Columbo on Instagram. This was so much fun. This just lightened my day. Just being able to relive this. I want to go back and watch it. I watched it last night. I want to go watch it again.
I know, me too. And I'm doing it again. I'm watching it tonight.
Yeah, just to see him signing that check for like 97 cents for the milk.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, this has been for goodbye for me, Dave Columbo.
Bye for me, Mick Andrews.
And until next time, that's been Off the Mark.